Recently I was suggested an article by a subscriber named Gentle Fist Brewer, who asked about my thoughts on the phenomenon of turbulent childhoods in single-parent, particularly single-mother households. The article, which I have included in the low bar, was published in 1997, nearly 20 years ago, so I thought it would be important to fact-check the statistics offered therein. The CDC, not the Census Bureau, has since become the primary source of data for births and deaths, but the most recent CDC breakout of death by suicide fails to take into account familial structure. After searching around the web, all the articles I found, even those on government websites, referenced the same 1997 study rather, supplied by Gentle Fist Brewer, or a comparable study that was published in 2003 by a French publication, Le Dansé. However, the French study actually was conducted throughout the 80s and the 90s as well. So numerous other studies can be found, but these again are all conducted in the 90s. If someone happens to come across something more recent than something published about statistics of turbulent childhood in single-mother households, anything more recent than something published in the 90s, please let me know in the comments section. As the data are all drawn from nearly 20 years ago, I will proceed with the caveat that there may be some differences today. However, I believe it is likely, or at least my intuition tells me it's likely that the same overarching patterns exhibited by these statistics will hold, regardless of a rapidly changing sort of zeitgeist. The article, which I have referenced in the description, points out the societally deviant behavior and psychological problems exhibited by in far more prevalent terms by children from single mother households. So first we'll touch on the social deviance. When I say social deviance here, I'm speaking of significantly higher rates of behaviors such as rape or violence or being imprisoned, what the article deems to be behavioral disorders. Now, I am certainly no psychologist, but as my thoughts have been requested on the phenomenon, I will. I do find the results interesting. I will proffer my thoughts on the topic. Now, according to a recent publication by the Census Bureau, with data drawn from 2009 to 2012, nearly 2/3 of female households receive welfare in the United States. Now, I postulate that there may exist a link between the government being a child's surrogate provider figure and a projection of the state as father archetype by the child. Since the government is always absent from the child's life, the child may begin to resent the state and what the state represents, i.e. law, authority, rules. As the child develops, he may decide to take revenge on a state that has been absent and completely impersonal, lacking any showing of warmth or human touch, and he lashes out against it. This may be exacerbated also by a child's perception of the presence of actual human fathers who love their children in the families of his childhood friends. Further, in the majority of these households, it is likely that not only is the mother receiving welfare by the state, she is also not working a job. Rather, she is either taking care of the child, perhaps she is doing the best she can, or else she is lounging around feeding off the welfare, slutting it up and chatting with friends on the phone, or merely absent from the child's life. Either way, what she is doing is not, in the majority of cases, working for money, like working an actual job. So if a woman is compensated by the state to produce and care for a child in the single-parent household, she does not have to work a job to live. I have heard the claptrap about how a mother's job is worth 6 figures, blah, blah, blah. But such a thing is ludicrous. It is such vomitous nonsense. Actually, it occurs to me C.S. MGTOW did an excellent debunk of this myth already, so I'm going to go ahead and actually provide the link in the description below. Definitely go check that video out. One of my favorite videos of his. In the end, the child the point I'm trying to make here is the child is not observing raw human energy being transformed into a positive effort. That is to say, taking one's energy and going to work to make a salary. Because there is no positive job-working role model in their life firsthand, the child may never come to understand the satisfaction of monetary compensation in exchange for a focused, directed effort on an intuitive, sort of intrinsic scale. Rather, the child is not. While the child may recognize that this occurs, they may never have sort of an organic, felt development of how this process functions. Money in exchange for labor. And because of this, the child may harness their energies and direct them towards less constructive, or at least societally constructive ends, potentially leading also to higher rates of getting locked up behind bars. There is one other strong issue exhibited by the article, that of the far higher suicide rates. This one's tricky to address. I personally grew up in a divorced household, something for which I incidentally am quite grateful, as I was blessed to witness female hypergamy firsthand. But I also had the blessing of a mother and father figure who both loved me the best that they could. I cannot then speak firsthand of the emotional aspect of being raised by a single parent, especially a single mother. This is also complicated because it merely, it merely tells us the suicide rates of children in general, not just young boys. And well, according to the most recent CDC report on births and deaths, link in the description, that'll be the 2013 CDC publication on the births and deaths in the United States, men are 3.7 times more likely to kill themselves than are women. But I'm not sure how this may be complicated or affected by, a single parent household experience. What I will say is that men generally find a strong need within themselves to have a purpose in life, a mission, an overarching reason to be, a raison d'être. Living without a father may affect a boy in his development insofar as he will have no role model, no advisor on his path to finding his own purpose, his own raison d'être. And a man with no purpose often is a depressed man. I think many men kill themselves, at least in part, after being abandoned by their wives because they no longer perceive their life to hold meaning or purpose, because, at least in part, they perceive their life purpose as provider for that family financially. When a child growing up has no role model who exhibits direction and yearns for freedom through the pursuit of his personal purpose, that child, especially a male child, may feel lost. I've spoken of this before, but I find that the women I interact with never, with rare exception, have expressed any sort of angst about, meaning, the meaning of life, why we do what we do. And I think biologically their purpose is rather straightforward, right? Bear the children. I can't speak of young girls, but I will go ahead and postulate that, at least for young boys, higher suicide rates may well be derived from the lack of a role model in his pursuit of purpose, and perhaps a subsequent mantra to the tune of, what the fuck is the point? I don't matter anyway, nothing matters anyway. I guess that's all I really have on the subject. This is why programs like Big Brother are so important, especially for young male children. They provide that essential male role guidance, that proof that a man can eventually find something to fight for that has meaning. I think every man has yearned for that, perhaps, as he makes his way through the complicated inner dialogue that accompanies growing up. So if you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. Thank you, gentlemen, and have a pleasant evening.